Yo, what's going on, homies? It's your boy StumpD back from another OPTC video, and in today's video, I have a one team versus all for you guys for the 10-star event against the KIZUNA Clash Uta. Now, this particular team can actually utilize any of the new KIZUNA rare recruits as your friend captain, whether it be Frankie, Nami, or Robin. This team will actually work against all of them. Now, when I was recording this, obviously I was recording this on assists, so I was doing this every 15 minutes, and I was sort of tweaking the team as I was going. So you kind of notice those changes as time goes through. But this was the final product of the team that I actually put together. And it actually works out quite nicely. After level 30, it should do okay. I feel like it'll struggle like upwards of like level 50 and whatnot. But most one team versus alls actually do. So nevertheless, I do have some like Marco teams that I'll release a little bit later, as well as my whale teams. They'll come in a later video for you guys as well. But if you enjoyed this kind of video, belt the like button for me. If you're new to the channel, hit the big red subscribe button. I've sped up the video because obviously, like, with like 3 different variations and then like 3 different teams or 3 different friend captains, there's like 9 runs, so I have sped it up quite drastically. So that's enough about the rambling of the team. Let's dive into the content. Alright, so we're going to kick it over here on the Psy variation. And the Psy variation, you get your special cooldowns to Free Spirit, Cerebral, and Driven characters. So it works quite nicely, because this team is a full Cerebral and Free Spirit-centric team. And when you bring Frankie, he is a Free Spirit captain. He also boosts Psy characters, and he also boosts shooters. So that way, Robin gets the cooldowns because she's a Psy. Pudding gets the cooldowns because she's a shooter, and the rest get the Free Spirit tag, which is very, very nice. Chopper under Frankie, unfortunately, doesn't get boosted, but Chopper does get boosted under Robin and Nami. Now, with all of these team comps that you will see today, Robin and Nami do work actually nicer than Frankie. But if you can only find Frankie friend captains, don't stress, because Frankie will definitely work for you guys as well. On stage 2, I like to use the Law special every now and again, especially when like we are on the Psy or the Strength variation, because you can actually stockpile that special with Pudding, as you don't really need Pudding for anything else for these other variations. So that works actually pretty nicely. On stage 2, you get Despaired. Chopper can get around the 5/10s of Despair. And then on the final stage, you get percent damage reduction, resilience, and bind after level 30. And to remove all of that, we have the support of Beppo on our Law. Beppo, Sachi, Penguin removes 2 turns. Robin can remove the other 5. The Kung Fu Luffy support gives us more matching orbs. Milky gets around the resilience. And then we sort of have an attack boost with Law and an orb boost with Milky. With the second comp, we are utilizing Nami. Nami can basically just remove the damage reduction for us, which is very, very nice. It means you don't really have to use Robin special, but Robin is great because Robin can actually give you the matching orbs thanks to Kung Fu and Luffy. However, that's pretty much all she gives. So you could just utilize Nami and then skip that step. However, Nami does give you a conditional boost to defense down, and you don't really need that because of Law and his super type or super class effect. Law can actually set the defense to 0 with a tandem orb, and he can actually give you a 2.25 times conditional boost, which is much stronger than what Nami's is at the 2 times mark. So utilizing Law on this particular stage works a lot nicer, and it just gives you a little bit more damage output when you actually are activating all of your buffs. To get around the resilience, Milky can remove 6 turns of it. She is a KIZUNA rare recruit. She's very, very good. And the only thing you can't do on this stage is actually utilize a color affinity boost. Now, the beautiful thing about using Chopper is you can actually carry Chopper's effect from stage 2 into stage 3. And it works out very, very nicely. And then to get around the other turns of bind later on down the track, we can actually utilize the double Pudding special. And then with the support of Neko on Chopper, you can actually get around another 2 turns of bind. So you'll be able to get around 6 turns of bind. You really only need to get around 5, which works out really, really nicely. However, if you do bring Robin as your friend captain, as you guys see now, you can actually activate Robin on stage 2 to get around the bind. Sorry, the Despair. And then that way you don't have to really worry about... Actually, no, you always want to use Chopper on turn 2 anyway. What am I saying? You can use Robin on the final stage after you remove the bind, because Robin can actually be a better orb booster for the team. She's a 2.25 times orb booster. She gives you a full board of orbs, which is great. It works out really, really nicely. And then you don't have to worry about that RNG from... you're not actually relying on RNG for anything with these orbs. So Robin's just an option, I guess. She just boosts the entire team. She just boosts Chopper. Chopper's hitting very hard because he gets type advantage on the final stage, as well as obviously all of these units as your captains, they actually get type advantage too. So that's against Psy. There's really not much else to say about the Psy variation. I'm just going to let this sort of play out, and I'll see you guys once we hit the next variation. Alright, so the next variation we have is the Strength variation, and on the Strength variation you get Shooter, Cerebral, and Free Spirit cooldown, so it works out very, very nicely for this team, because again, it's a full Cerebral and Free Spirit team. Mainly, you just need your lore to get those cooldowns. That's kind of the big thing here. Frankie, on this particular team, he's the first captain that we are going to be using. He doesn't do all that much. He does have Barrier Pen, which is actually pretty nice. But other than that, he doesn't really do too much to the team. On stage 2 against Zoro, you get 3 turns of defense up and you get 3 turns of damage reduction, which is a little bit annoying. But Robin can actually get around that fairly nicely. And then you get the 3 matching orbs thanks to Kung Fu Luffy. Once you hit the final stage, there's another 5 turns of defense up and there's a perfect barrier for 4 perfect hits. And then after level 30, it's a 6 turn defense up and 5 turn special blinds. So to get around the defense up, very simply, we just utilize Lore and his super class mechanic. Setting the defense to 0, giving us a 2.25 times conditional boost. Works incredibly nicely, so that way we don't have to worry about getting around that defense up. Once again, Milky is our attack booster. She's going to remove the special blind later down the line as well, which actually works out really, really nicely. To get through the barrier, unfortunately, we don't have any way to get around the barrier. So we're basically just tapping our way through it. It is only 4 perfect hits, but obviously if you are utilizing Nami as your friend captain, it works quite nicely. Both Pudding and Frankie have barrier pen, so if you are using Frankie as your captain, try get a max barrier pen, Frankie. That way you can actually just break the barrier that way. And then you can just rely on Lore later down the line to hit that final, well, Lore, actually, I lied. Lore you have to hit with first to set the defense to 0, which can be a little bit annoying. But like I said, if you are bringing Nami as the friend captain, she works the best for this particular fight. And it works super nicely. You get an orb boost with Milky. You have an attack boost with Lore. You have the chain shenanigans with Lore. You have a conditional boost with Lore. You also have color affinity with Chopper as well. And remember that no matter who you're using, whether it's Frankie, whether it's Nami and Robin, they're all hitting with rainbow affinity. However, Chopper only gives affinity to Robin and Nami. He's not actually giving it to Frankie, which is a little bit annoying. But nevertheless, it's not too big of an issue, as most of the damage is already there. You don't have to worry about it too much per se. But this team gets around it fairly nicely. I'm not really sure how high this team will actually go. If you're using a friend captain Nami, I imagine this team would go much higher than what you need it to be, because Nami's already setting the defense to 0. You can save Lore for your final shot, and it's all pretty hunky-dory from there. So I don't really see there being too many issues there. When you are using Frankie, you are going to struggle the most. When you're using Robin, you're still going to struggle, but you're not going to struggle as much as what you will struggle as with Frankie. But if you are utilizing Nami, it just works out so nicely, because once you get to the final stage, she just sets the defense to 0 for you. And even with Lore and his conditional boost being at the 2.25 and then her setting the defense to 0, it just works out really, really nicely. It just works out super, super well. But yeah, so if you can find a Nami friend captain for this particular fight, I would highly recommend utilizing a Nami. However, if you can find any friend captain at all, that's the way you want to do it. And if you are super struggling with these particular fights, always use the suicide strat when you can, or if you need to. Never be afraid to actually dive in with your boosted units or your boosted friend captain, no matter whether it be Frankie, Nami, or Robin. Leave the quest, request assist from your friends, hit yes, and then just wait out the time for someone to actually come along and save or do your assist. So that is the strength variation. Once again, I'm going to let this play out. I'll see you at the end. Alright, so the final variation is actually the int variation of the KIZUNA 10-star. And once again, oh, actually, no, we're starting with Robin this time. Okay, that's super interesting. So starting off with Robin, she's pretty good for this. Obviously, her and Nami, they work very, very nicely because they just boost the entire team. But with the int variation, Dex, Psi, and int characters get their cooldowns, which means that Law actually doesn't get his cooldowns, which is a little bit annoying. However, if you are running Frankie as the friend captain, you actually can get Law's cooldowns, which works very nicely. But it's a big reason why we put Reiju as a support on our pudding character. Now, on this particular variation, once you hit stage 2 against Frankie himself, you get 5 turns of burn and a 40% HP cut. Oh, excuse me. And just be careful with that burn. It's about 10k. It's nothing too crazy, but it can be a little bit annoying. On the final stage, you get a full board of badly matching orbs, 5 turns of despair after sockets, 2 turns of special rewind for all of your units, and lock the specials for 3 good hits. So you can't basically just can't natural store. Now, big reason why we have Pudding on this team is so Pudding can actually get 2 turns of cooldown, and she can actually remove 4 turns of despair, which is very, very nice. Ideally, though, you kind of want to give the cooldowns to Robin. That's the big reason. Well, that's the main reason why you want to do this, where you want to go with this, I guess, is the best way to put it. However, once you hit level 30 and you get like 5 turns of paralysis, 1 quick hit barrier, as well as 2 turns of special rewind on the middle units, and 3 turns of special rewind on the bottom row. I really don't know how that's going to go per se once this like goes past level 30 when you're not utilizing a friend captain Frankie. Friend captain Frankie is pretty much the only option to give all of the turns of special rewinds. You could probably utilize something like Carrot Wanda instead of like Pudding on this particular team. However, then you got to get around stuff like the despair. So if you're not using Frankie, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. If you're not using something like Frankie, you're gonna it's gonna be very challenging to get all of those turns of special rewind, especially if they stack, right? Because you already get 2 turns of special rewinds, and then if Frankie, if you get another 2 on your middle row and then 3 on your bottom row, you are gonna get a lot of turns of special rewind, which is gonna be very, very interesting, very, very interesting to say the least. To get around the despair, like I said, Pudding's there, Robin's there. And that's all going to work out pretty nicely. Milky, again, orb booster. Basically all she does for this particular team. You can get a quick orb on your Law for this particular team. So ideally, you don't really want to activate the super type. Unless you have like another quick orb somewhere. But like I said, unless you guys have Frankie as a friend captain for this fight, you are going to struggle just a little bit. But nevertheless, getting to level 30 is not going to be an issue whatsoever. So hopefully this team helps you guys out if you guys are looking at sort of just getting to that level 30 mark and then calling it a day. Mainly because like Frankie can just give you 3 turns of cooldown. It's just so nice. And because it's not on your captains that get like the extra rollback, like Pudding's immune to special reverse, so like having her in the bottle spot works like amazingly, and then she gives Frankie the cooldowns, and then you can activate Frankie. But other than that, like it's going to be a massive struggle for most teams that try and use all 3 of these captains like freely to actually get around that. But like I said, Frankie's going to be your man. He's going to work out very, very nicely if you guys need all those special cooldowns. As well as him having barrier pen too, so that's a nice little way of getting around the barrier. So that's going to work out quite nicely as well. But yeah, that's going to wrap up the video for today, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure to go down there and belt the like button for me, as this video did take quite a while to actually make because we had to do all the assists and put it all together that way. But if you did enjoy it, like I said, belt the like button. If you're new to the channel, you haven't done so already, hit that big red subscribe button. Most importantly, wherever you guys are in this beautiful world, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. As always, homies, I thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Later!